everyone. Hello, Lior, Lucci, Ben, and Eddie. Today, we are here to talk about levels. What are levels? Well, levels represents a person's unspoken values and basically the overall objectives that they tend to favor. Now, I'm not totally sure what that means exactly, but we do have somewhat of an expert on today. So I'm going to throw it over to Lior to tell us more about this thing we are calling levels.
Thank you, Alana. So levels come from the work of Claire Graves, roughly about 60 years ago. He's a psychologist that was really keen on, if you think about what was going on 60 years ago, there was a lot of racial tensions, and of course, they're still happening today, but it was really the burgeoning of the civil rights movement. And he wanted to change the conversation from race and socioeconomic qualities over to what are a person's intrinsic values. And he noticed in studies that folks from different backgrounds actually got along better if they shared some of the value levels or value memes, as he called them at the time, as opposed to folks who came from the same background or the same ethnicity and had differing opinions inside of these value memes. So what I'm going to do is just briefly take you through all of them so that we can use this as a baseline for future conversations. The first three, we're not going to go into very deeply. You've got the instinctive level, which is a person's need or a drive for food, water, warmth, shelter. It's the first thing that has shown up, in our human evolution. We're going to talk about this from a human evolution perspective and from when these elements show up as a person grows from childhood to adulthood. Very simple one, as basic as it gets. Then we've got what's called the magic level. And this is very similar to, thinking like superstitions, thinking that something is going to happen because, you performed some kind of an action in your house and you're thinking, it's going to affect your sports team. This is where the magic level comes in, whether it's, we're talking about sticking a needle in a doll and hoping it's going to hurt somebody. That's the magic level. And then we've got the red or impulsive level. And that level is characterized by, I'm bigger than you, I'm going to bonk you on your head and take your stuff. So, you can kind of probably think, we'll go into this in more depth later, but you can think about from a human evolution perspective, how food, water, warmth, shelter, going into creating magical stories, going into, I'm bigger than you, so I'm going to give you a knock on the head and take your stuff. How we evolved as a species through that, and how kids evolve if you happen to have kids. So that's a brief element of the first three. I'm kind of skipping over them because you don't run into a lot of these in standard life, and they don't have much of an application in Agile. So let's move to something that actually does have an application in Agile, and something that you're quite likely to come across. And that is the amber level for following rules and performing your role. So a person who really values rules, roles, is someone who values structure, right? These are your SDLC compliance folks, your legal and your regulatory folks. Anyone who's coming from this sort of a value system really cares about things not breaking. So if you're talking to someone and you're listening to them talk about avoiding risk, there's a chance that they might be amber oriented. And it's good to note that when speaking about them in the future, speaking to them rather in the future, so that you could speak to them in a language that matters to them.
Leo, can you give us an example that about somebody that maybe is amber, and even though it has this positive side about structure and following rules, maybe what is it that is limiting that person like to evolve?
Sure.
And what's the downside of this level?
So that's a great point. So an important thing to note is as you move from level to level inside of this lower area here, the area that has a white background that we call first tier, people at each level don't value the stuff at the level above or the level below. So reds are rule breakers and they drive ambers crazy. Oranges, which are achievement oriented, really care about results. And a person who's very connected with not breaking things and following rules at the amber level will not be attentive to whether or not the rule following is creating a positive or a negative impact. Making sure that the rules are followed and people perform their roles is the means unto the end. So it's possible you could be hemorrhaging money, but as long as the rules are followed, folks at this level are going to be happy. So that's a good segue to go into orange. And we saw orange, from our own historical perspective, the Industrial Revolution is an excellent example of orange values run amok. And we got a lot of amazing things out of the Industrial Revolution. But on the other hand, we thought we can just dump nasty stuff in the oceans forever. So we didn't learn that there are some negative elements to essentially, pushing as fast as you can, bleeding edge innovation. Oranges are very exciting. They're very necessary to have. So if you're speaking with someone who is talking about outcompeting everybody else, outcompeting the market, innovating, having the best technology, very exciting stuff. These are orange-oriented people, and they're just as our ambers are necessary to have to make sure that things don't break. And there's a natural tension between oranges and ambers that they may not personally enjoy, but we know that we need them both.
Would you say that most of the organizations today, that most of the managers or leaders maybe have this component of orange, that there might be on the orange level, the organization and the individuals working there?
Most businesses that are in the world to make a profit will probably have a predominantly orange culture. From an individual to individual perspective, it really depends. So like I said, it depends where people in technology are typically, you're going to find more oranges there. But folks who are in compliance or other areas of the business will probably tend towards ambers.
Yes, I got it.
The organization itself as well, you see the age 9 to 14. Is that also, not the individuals within the organization, but the organization itself? Do they also tend to be more orange at the beginning and move up the scale, or do you think they stay? Do they have the same kind of process?
So these value bases are invisible. So folks are usually not paying attention to them or looking to move them to one direction or the next. The only thing that matters is inside of any part of an organization. So the age 9 to 14 years is when this becomes available to human beings as they grow. People may or may not choose to move from amber to orange. They might decide that they just love the safety and control of what amber offers them, and they might choose that's how it's not a conscious choice, but it just might feel better for them to stay there, in the same way that as we move up from orange to green, achievement oriented people might decide that being achievement oriented is what resonates with them. So there's no right or wrong thing to be here. There's just things to be aware of, and inside of organizations, that's part of what we bring to the table. Because if there's a portion of your organization that you want to outperform the market and they tend to be culturally amber, they're probably not going to outperform the market.
That question of how they relate to each other. But if you are, say, you're stuck at orange, but you could see the level above you and you're aware of where you are and you want to get to a different level, what can a person choose to be something different?
I don't think it works that way. And I wouldn't suggest that anyone is stuck at a particular level. They're doing the thing that most resonates with who they are and what they're up to in the world. So an orange that's starting to tap on green is an orange that's become disillusioned with just succeeding or just making a lot of money. And they'll start to feel, remember, oranges will win at any cost. So they'll start to feel guilt. They'll start to feel like, well, how am I contributing to humanity? And this is a great segue into green, right? What am I doing? If you think about when we as a global community, all of a sudden realize that, hey, we have to start recycling and stop dumping things in the ocean. There was a point in time where we thought that would never end. But we figured out, oh my God, we're causing harm. we need to start taking care of things and being responsible. And that's when green starts to come into play. So once someone at any of these levels starts to feel disillusioned for their own values with where they are, that's when they're going to start moving up to the next one. Right? So greens are, what you see all over the world now, where essentially anywhere where people are trying to take care of each other, ensuring that we have equality, ensuring that, that human rights are not being violated. Green came with the abolishment of slavery as an institutional practice. With the advent of green, within 100 years, slavery was abolished as an institutional practice. It's not to say that it's not still, right, but it's not accepted any longer as, as something a country can just take on. So that was our evolution from orange to green. And finally, because I know we're getting along here, I'll just briefly talk about the integral level. And the integral level takes everything that's come before it and transcends and includes it at the same time. So where a green might be offended by an orange's desire for money or success, an integral person will say, well, we need human beings to be taken care of, and we need to be successful as a company. I mean, if we're not focusing on success, then we're either not going to be able to stay in business, or we're not going to, people aren't going to care about our goods because we're not innovating and really pushing the ball forward. And if we don't care about, our guardrails and keeping everything safe and making sure that everything is running perfectly and it's a well-oiled machine, then whatever our intentions might be, they're going to fall to pieces. So when you're at this level, it means that you've absorbed the other three, but you no longer identify with them as something that you are. You see yourself as all of it, and you see the whole world as all of it. And even when you need to have a conversation with an orange or a green, you can kind of naturally tune the conversation you want to have with them so it's in a language that they understand, which we'll show in later videos is one of the most effective way to use these levels.
How is it that these levels, this evolution, about the evolution of one level to the other one, what was the breakthrough? What was it? Can you tell one, like, for instance, in the lowest one, which was like survival, I think, what made it then move to another one? Was it that those things were satisfied and then there was a need to something more? And that is more or less the rationale, like
Yes.
moving from one level to the other one?
Yeah, so there was a stagnation. There was a we've done everything we can do at this level, and there's a really, and this will be the last one I do because I know we have to cut short. This is an interesting one because what got people to move from this level to this level is at this level you were essentially just with a small band of people, and there was a recognition that cooperating yielded better results. So if a lot of different families got together and took down, for example, a large animal, the meat would spoil before a single group could eat it. So they all ate together, and in eating together, they started to talk to each other and tell each other stories, and it created the magic level. And there's a pheromone that people give off when they eat together, and it created a bond, and that's what created tribal societies. And it's also one of the reasons why we like to eat together.
Very interesting stuff, Lior. That was a lot of information, and I'm curious to see what other people think about it. Is this something that you notice in your workplace, or where you can start noticing what people value? It can be really interesting, especially to one of Lior's points earlier, in the way people prefer to receive information. So we would love to hear from you in our comments below. Let us know where you might have seen this in your life, or if you have any questions, just reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. So Lior, Ben, Eddie, Lucci, thank you so much, and we will see you next time.